One. All right, guys. Here we are on Immigration and Travel Podcast. Um, I'm very excited to have today's guest on the show, who is Xuling. She's originally from China, and she's currently in Alexandria, Egypt. For those who don't know and aren't very good with cities and capitals and locations, Alexandria is like the Mediterranean city of Egypt. I had the pleasure of meeting Xuling at a social event, and we've been staying in touch through our both of our separate travels. I know that she went to Iraq for a while, which I'm very interested in hearing on a separate occasion, because in this occasion, some events just unfolded in Tunisia, right? You were trying to go to Tunisia, and I mean, just tell us what happened.
Yeah, so basically last Saturday, my partner and I organized a trip to Tunisia. So we're planning on spending a week there. So basically our plan was to be there on Saturday and then come back on next Saturday. However, we landed in Tunisia when we're at the immigration border. My partner got through easily as he is a French citizen. And they stopped me and they said, "Where is your visa?" And I was like, "Hold on." I had a look on Wikipedia, on Google, on Chinese official website and Tunisian immigration website. And I did not see a single word that mentioned that Chinese citizen would need a visa, because wherever I looked, it says that Chinese citizen doesn't need a visa to stay in Tunisia up to 3 months, 90 days. And they were like, no, 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 you need a visa. So they sent me to a visa office like place. And then I gave them my passport. I said, maybe there's a mistake. They said that I need a visa, but apparently I had to look that I don't need a visa. And then she had a look at my passport. She's like, China? I was like, yeah, China. And then she had a look and she's like, you need a visa. And I was like, wow, how am I supposed to get it now? Like, there's no way I'm going to get a visa now. And she's like, okay, wait. So they sent me to a corner, sit down, and among with me, there are some people from other African countries. I think some are Senegalese, and there is one dude from Comoros Island. So we're like all waiting together. And I waited for 1.5 hours. And during this time, I was alone because my partner made it out and he couldn't come back. But then he was waiting for me for too long. So I think after 1 hour or two, he came back with our luggage and everything. So he went to speak to those people at the office. And then they said, no, no, you have to wait because she does not need a visa. And they're talking to their interior administration and foreign administration, see if they allow her to enter without a visa. And then we waited for another 2 hours in that corner. And then one dude came out and he said, we rejected your entry. You're refused. So you're facing immediate deportation. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. I did not understand what just happened, because if you look at the phone, so I was about to show him what's written on the phone. I was like, look at this, it's all in French, and this is that I do not need a visa. And he refused to look at my phone and he refused to talk to me. And he would only speak to my partner in French at the time and tell him that I am facing immediate deportation and there's nothing that we can do. And then I got really angry. I was like, oh, we booked our hotel, we booked another ticket back. And what are we supposed to do now? Like, how are we going to go back? What about tickets? And he was like, okay, come follow me. So I thought when he said he would, when he asked us to follow him, I thought, okay, maybe he is going to find a way to help us. But then he took us up to this little room, like a prison-like room, but it's like a transit zone. But a lot of people who are facing deportation are staying in that room. So he's like, okay, come here and stay here. They will take care of your problem. And after he finishing the sentence, he just left. And then he locked the door and left us with all those people that we didn't know. And I started
about how many people do you think were in that place?
So at the time I spoke to, there were 4 or 5 Senegalese students, and there were a group of tourists from Ivory Coast who are facing exact the same issue as I did. And I think there are some other transiting passengers. So I would say probably about 30 people in that room at the time. And most of them are from African countries. And
So I know so you put out a statement on Instagram, which I read in its entirety, and I think that the gist of it is you believe you're being targeted for your nationalities, right?
yeah, sure. So that's what happened later on. So that was when we already accepted the fact that we are going to be deported. So we asked those people who work there, we're like, okay, so we're going to be deported, then get us out here as soon as possible so that we don't have to stay here for too long. They said, okay, the next flight is 11:50 tomorrow morning. And at the time it was like 4 p.m. In Tunisia, and we're like, we don't want to wait for this long. How about you book us on a different flight? Maybe we can fly to Dubai, to Qatar, like as soon as possible. They said, yeah, sure, but then in that case you have to pay for your own flight, and you can only book with either Tunisian Air or France Air. You can't book any other airlines if you want to fly to a different country. And we're like, this is unbelievable. And we didn't want to spend any more money on Tunisian government. So we're like, okay, let's wait. And after a couple of hours, two Indian passenger came. So they were having the same issue as I did as well. So they were sent here to be deported.
So they were new ones. So you were there, and then they came so they had just been put in.
Yeah, they kept sending new people in. Yeah. So we were like waiting at that place for about 20 hours. And then during this time, they sent so many people in, and most of them are facing deportation.
But not a single one of those people was from what you would consider like a European country, and they were from nations that are considered third world. Or, I mean, what do you what do you think? How do you think you guys were classified? And I know that in your statement you were like the other members of the group were saying, hey, look, like, I know you might think that we are, or actually, I want you to tell me before I talk about the other stuff. I know that there was a statement by an official that was made to you about taking their jobs in Tunisia. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. That happened later on. After that, they refused to give us any food or water. And so basically what happened was, like, we went to speak to those two Indian citizens, and they were also very confused of what happened. And while we were waiting, we were also asking them, what about food and water? They said, there is no food and water. You can give us money to buy food or water, but it turns out one small bottle of water costs €5, and they only accept Tunisian dinar, euros, and Emirati dinars. And we didn't have any of them. And my partner had probably €5 on him. So we spent that €5 on a small bottle of water. And then we didn't have any other money to buy food. So one of the Indian guys lives in Abu Dhabi. So he has some Emirati dinars. So he gave one of the officials 200 dinars to buy pizza and 2 cans of Coke. And then it turned out to be very expensive pizza, and he didn't get much change back. But then after that, we were still like feeling hungry. So we were asking.
Are you saying that the pizza was less than the money they were giving back? And then
to be honest, I can't say anything for sure, because I did not have a chance to go to the restaurant to see how much that pizza was. But all I can say was it was very expensive pizza.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, and then while we were waiting, there's another Filipino passenger coming in. So he wasn't going to be deported. So he was just transiting in Tunisia. So he was normal, but they still took his passport away. But he had the right to go into the terminals to eat food and to buy water and stuff like that. So he had the freedom to go out.
Wow.
Yeah, so basically it's like a tiny little transit room, and all the people that are facing deportation are kept here. But then if you pass the security check, which is like 3 meters away, and then you can go into the terminal, and then it's like full of restaurants and shopping malls and everything, basically everything. And we are not able to go there because we're there illegally, basically, and they didn't allow us to go there. But then this Filipino passenger could go, so we saw him. So we told him our situation, and we're like, could you please go and get some food for us, and we will give you the money. But after one of the officials saw what we were doing there, he stopped that Filipino passenger from going into the terminal as well.
Really?
Which definitely infuriated everyone over there. So one of the Indian guys, he went to the official. He's like, give us one reason why we cannot go to the terminal to eat food, why we do not have the right to eat food. He said, okay. So the official said, he said, you want a reason? Hold on for a second. So he started like going through everyone's passport there, and he found his passport. He's like, this is your passport, right? You're Indian, right? Okay, the reason is you're Indian, he's Indian, and she's Chinese. You guys are here to take our jobs. I can't let you go.
Oh my God, I can't believe they're so, yeah, that's just ridiculous. That, I mean, we know that in the world, there's people that are ignorant and that say things like that. And well, I don't know if I would call this individual ignorant. He works in immigration customs in Tunisia. So his job is to stop people who aren't supposed to be there from coming in, or to regulate that. But to actually say that and
Yeah.
it's just so offensive. Like, how did you feel in that moment?
We were so angry because never have I ever in my entire life faced such blunt discrimination before. And for me, I also wrote down in my story, like, I just didn't know how to feel, because it was like literally first time in my life. Well, I mean, I have faced racism, sexism before and wherever I lived, but such blunt discrimination, no, for the first time in my life.
And that's something that I wanted to ask you about. Is you are from China, and I've never been to China, and I don't know. China is just such a talked about nation in so many different ways. Their politics, their economy, their people, to everything. I mean, there's so many stories that come out of China every single day. But something I haven't really heard of much, because maybe I haven't looked for it, is how has the treatment of Chinese people been? And I'm asking you specifically because you've been traveling through the pandemic, right? So we know that the virus originated in China. So how has the treatment of Chinese people been? Not just you, but have you heard other people and how they've been treated?
Oh, sure. So, well, now I think it's getting a bit better, but I remember when COVID just started, I wasn't in China. I was still living in Russia back then. And then when COVID just started, I was hearing a lot of things about Russians attacking Asian looking people. Um,
Wow.
it's not even just Chinese. So like Koreans, Japanese, or even Asian looking Russians, they got attacked in the city where I was living, which is Moscow. So a lot of girls, I heard that were attacked. They were like pushed down the hallway, or like some people like spat on their face, or I've never witnessed any of that, but I heard stories.
Yeah.
And also like there were times people would say like, where's your mask? You know, like people would say things like that to me. Sometimes it's a joke, but sometimes they really mean it. I couldn't really tell. And it happened in my university at the time as well. People would ask me, where's your mask?
Just you
um
specifically.
yeah, they asked me. Well, but I was like the only Chinese person in that class, so when they saw me, they would
Doesn't
ask.
matter though. Like, there was no actual enforcement of mask at the time. The people
Oh, yeah.
before this whole thing was enforced were telling you to wear a mask.
Yeah. But well, the thing is at the time that Europe didn't have COVID. So it was like the very, very beginning of COVID. So there weren't any cases in Russia. So when they saw me, they would be like, where's your mask? Because I'm Chinese, they would assume that I just came back from China or something. But then I traveled to Saudi Arabia during pandemic. Well, like it wasn't in Saudi either. It was only in China. It would just started. And some Saudi local people, they would say like, don't come into my shop because she's Chinese. Or they would ask me like, are you Chinese? I would be like, yeah, I'm Chinese. They're like,
Oh
oh, okay.
my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people, but there are also a lot of nice people. They would come to me and ask me like, how's the situation in China? Are your family okay? Is everyone okay? So yeah. Yeah. So it's different in general, but I definitely feel like we're attacked when the pandemic just started.
So you were living in Russia during the pandemic, or when it
Yeah.
started? How long were you living there? I guess kind of give me a summary of your life. Like you were born in what city and what age did you move and stuff like that.
Right. So I was born in a small city in China in south, so which is called Zunyi. It's the nearest city is Chengdu. Maybe some people know. So I was born there, and I lived there until I was 18 years old. And then I went to Russia, went to Moscow to study for my bachelor's degree. So I stayed in Russia for 5 years until 2020.
Which, by the
Then
way,
I
I know you speak perfect Russian, or at least very, very fluent Russian, right?
Yeah, I speak Russian as well because I studied in Russian in Russia. So
Ooh, that's incredible. And your English is beautiful. I'm sure your Chinese is perfect. And on top of that, I think when we met, you were very, very into learning Arabic. How did that turn out? Or how is that
yeah,
turning out
well,
now?
still learning, still learning. I would say I'm
Yeah.
making progress, but it's a very difficult language. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. All these
Yeah.
languages are extremely difficult. You're choosing like language roots from all over the place. I speak English and Spanish. So many words can be like, uh, what we share the roots. The roots are shared, and you can see where it derived from. It's Latin or Germanic language, but you go in Russian, Chinese, Arab. I mean, you have a special skill.
Sure. But I mean, after learning a lot of languages, you would actually realize that it's getting easier and easier to learn different languages because you
Mm.
find similarities everywhere.
Okay, okay. So you studied and I'm sorry, I'm trying to put like a chronological order into your life. So how old are you now?
I'm 23.
Okay, so okay, so yeah, you just moved. You were in Russia at 18, and then I guess it was this year that you left, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I went back to China for a bit because of pandemic. So basically, in 2020 in summer, I went back to China for a while and planning on going back to Russia. But then because of COVID and stuff, I couldn't go back. So I kind of stayed in China and I graduated online. And this in last August, my partner and I decided to move out of China. So we came to Egypt.
And your partner is not Chinese, right? You said he's French.
Yeah, he's French.
So you guys have been together since China or since Russia?
Since China, actually, we started dating during pandemic. So yeah, so we met in my city. He was working in my city.
Very cool. Do you remember? So, is there a lot of, I guess, Western presence in your city or in the cities that you lived in China? I'm just curious because I've never been to China. I know it's so big. There's so many different cities. I even met a girl from Croatia who was in Wuhan when this whole thing started to
Right.
happen, and I was like, there was people from Croatia in Wuhan. Like, so can you break it down for
Yeah.
me? Like, what's China like when it comes to people going there to study or work?
Oh, of course. So a lot of Chinese, so a lot, I would say these days there are a lot of foreigners in China. And there used to be a lot more, but I think because of COVID, there are a bit less. But most of the foreigners are in big cities like, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, all those big cities. But in where I come from, it's a very, very, very small city. So by the time I was, well, like, let's say 5 years ago, there were probably around 20 foreigners there. But now because of COVID, there were like two, three, four foreigners, and that's about it.
So it's a very small city. I know small, small in Chinese standards isn't usually small, but how many
Sure.
millions of people, how many hundred thousands or millions of people live in your city?
I haven't really looked, but I would say probably like 3 million, 2 million to 3 million. But that's a very small city in China.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say
Mhm.
even and
Yeah.
then by the same standards, that is a very small city in China. Okay, I see. So then you decided to leave China with your partner, and what was your next step?
So basically, we were just, I wanted to learn Arabic. So I was like, I would really like to continue learning Arabic. And I was thinking either to move to Jordan or Egypt. And then we both decided on Egypt. So we just moved here.
And so how many months have you been in and I think Alexandria is where you've been living, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we have been here since the end of August. So it's about six months. Yeah.
Okay. And you've been able to like are you able to sustain yourself financially through savings, or you're still going through school, or your partner? How did you guys figure out how to move to Egypt and be able to sustain yourselves financially?
Well, so my partner worked in China for a long time and he has got decent amount of savings. So that's enough for him to support himself, even though, well, he's still working as well. He's working online as a teacher. And I myself also work online as a Chinese, English, and Russian teacher. So I work while I am not studying. And also, you have been to Egypt yourself. So you know that it's a very cheap country. So everything is quite affordable. So yeah, yeah,
That's very cool. Well, I mean, it makes me sad because you're in Egypt, and once you get that sense of like Arabic culture, you want to see more and more, and you want to start to compare. I remember, like, I only had my imagination before I went into the Arab North African countries, and the first country I visited was Tunisia in June of last year. So I was in Europe,
oh
and
wow,
I usually travel and I let my excitement guide me. So I will either think about a map or look at a map and go, okay, where do I want to go that excites me? Okay, maybe I could go to Africa, but ooh, maybe I can go here, and I would just know, like I'll get a feeling of overwhelming excitement, like, and that's the destination that I usually go for. I was in
yeah.
Europe and I was like, I want to go into the Arab world. I really want to see how those people live. I want to know everything about it. What country should I go to first? I knew Morocco was there. I knew Egypt. I knew, I could go to Jordan. But then I was like, I want to go to one I don't really hear about much. So Tunisia. And I knew nothing. I kid you not. I barely knew anything about this country before. I just knew it was there. And I decided to kind of blindly go. I didn't look up any pictures. I didn't look up any information. I just went, all right, how do I get there? I was in Paris, and I know that there's a lot of Tunisians in France, so there's like, and honestly, Tunisia is so close to Europe in terms of flight time. It's only
Yeah.
2 hours away, so it was an easy flight to find. And I was in Paris. I flew to Tunis, the capital, and I honestly, now that I can look back and compare it to a lot more countries, because at the time I went and I loved it. The people were nice, more English speakers than I expected, good weather, good food, and I thought, okay, maybe I was just happy because it was my first time going to an Arabic country. No, looking back, I still think it's a very special country, and I just went back recently again, just
Yeah,
to emphasize, right? So it's so sad to hear that, and
sure.
I guess we don't, and maybe I'm putting this opinion, and I don't know if you share with me, but it's sad that like one person can ruin the entire reputation of a country for someone, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how do you feel about the country? Has it affected your way of thinking, or do you kind of know it's one guy, and it doesn't have to do with the rest?
Yeah. Well, I definitely don't think Tunisia or like Tunisian people are like those officials, like I definitely don't think so. They're completely two different things. And like these days I've been writing my story, posting my stories on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, all the social medias that I could, and I am receiving a lot of comments from Tunisian people that I don't know, never met before. And they've been saying, we're really sorry and we feel ashamed that this happened to you and how our officials are treating foreigners, right? And a lot of them, they even went on the official website to find the proof that Chinese citizens actually don't need a visa and send it to me. They were like, you were right the whole time. It's them. They fucked it up. So they have been saying a lot of things to cheer me up. So no, I definitely don't think this is what Tunisia is like. And this is definitely what people should expect from Tunisia. Because from my knowledge, that Tunisian people are very nice and welcoming and hospitable. Because I went to Tunisia in order to visit some friends of mine, and while I was stuck in Tunisian airport, one of my friends from Tunis, she was like, is everything okay? What can I do to help you? She even came all the way to the airport just to ask if she can get me out, what she can do for me, like this is too much. Like I never even expected this from her. So no, I would say Tunisian people are very nice people.
Yeah, and I think that's when you see people's like true colors. I can go and have a good time, have no issues, and you're gonna come out of the country thinking, oh, everybody's so nice. But it's in the times of difficulty and who shows up and who doesn't that you
Yeah.
really see. And it's good to know that people were there for you during that time. I don't think we finished the story though. So you were there. The Indian tourist went up and asked, "Give me one reason." Then they gave you that horrible reason. So what unfolded for the next however many hours?
Well, so basically, we just didn't have any water and food because he didn't allow us to get any water and food. And we were just there chatting and waiting. And then we were just like really pissed off at the fact that he said we were there to steal their job, because one of the Indian guys, he has a permanent residency in France and a decent job. And another one lives at the Emirates, also has a decent job. And we're like, how, like, what possibly reason that you can think of that we're here to steal your jobs? It just doesn't make any sense to us. But then meanwhile, while we're there, we also met some other people. So apparently there are some students from Senegal. They came to Tunisia to study. But however, I think something went wrong with their visa, or they needed visa. I don't remember what exact situation was. They weren't allowed in, but then they called up their school in Tunisia. They just abandoned them. They did not return to their calls, and they just left them at the airport. And by the time we met them, they were already at the airport for 3 days.
Oh, oh my gosh. I can't believe that. I mean, what hurts the most hearing this, and obviously being like the person experiencing it, is not being given a legitimate reason. So for you, like, they gave you a kind of a reason, but that's not really explaining the rules and regulations of why they did things. But then and now being in Senegal and seeing, like, you can feel poverty in these sub-Saharan countries, as I make my way down, you feel it. And people are moving to Morocco to find a job, or moving to Mauritania to find a job. And Mauritania is not doing too well either. They're just scrambling. And to have students show up, to have, and the thing that hurts me is their dream. You have this, as you're going there, you have, okay, I have my visa, I have a school that's going to back me up, I'm showing up, and you're not thinking something's going to go wrong. Maybe you're a little bit nervous, and then to get there and, number one, have your dream taken away, number two, give no explanation, and number three, be stuck somewhere for 3 days. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
did they give them food and water? How did they manage?
Well, so as far as what I know, that if they're stuck at the airport for a long time, the airport gives them 1 or 2 bottles of water per day and 2 pieces of bread, and that's it. So
It's
one
like
piece of bread in the morning and another piece of bread in the evening, and that's all they get. And the worst thing is, because those Senegalese students, they seem to be very young. I assume they're probably not even 20 years old, probably their first time abroad, and they were so scared, and they called their fathers, and the father wanted to talk to the immigration officer. So he handed the phone to the officer, and the officer was like, no, I don't want to talk to your father.
and it's like these are just kids. They don't know anything. They don't know how to defend themselves in life, let alone in a foreign country in front of a
Yeah.
random immigration guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they have no idea what's going to happen to them either. They don't know whether they're going back home. They don't know whether they're going to spend another night at the airport, And but later on, like I realized they're not even the worst. So we met two guys from Mali. They had been there for a week.
I just and it's such a because what I get the sense that I get from the Arabic culture is the sharing, right? Everything is done in a circle, and here's my piece of bread. I'll tear off a little bit for you. I don't know why that doesn't transfer over in like the most basic ways in this sort of place. Okay, hey guys, we're not gonna let you in. Can't disclose the reasons why, but
Mhm.
here's some food. Like I know they can get food. I mean, come on, there's no excuse anywhere in the world, unless you're in the
Yeah.
middle of absolutely nowhere and there's no food around, to not give somebody food and
Yeah.
make them suffer. I mean, it's uh, I'm trying to find the word. I know the word better in Spanish, but it's an evil way to handle things, and it hurts to hear. It's
It
uncomfortable to hear.
it does. It does. At the beginning, I was feeling really sad. I was crying for myself, but then after meeting them, I felt really sorry for them, and I was like crying for them. I was like, how could they treat people like this? This is unbelievable. They're just kids. Like, what have they done wrong that they deserve to be treated this way? You know, of course, of course, they can turn around to you and say like, oh, we're not stopping you from eating food. You can still give us money and buy food. But I'm sorry, who can afford a bottle of water for €5? I'm pretty sure those kids from Senegal can't.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do you know, like, were you able to stay in touch with some of these people, and do you know if they finally made it out?
Well, unfortunately, I do not have contact with them, but I remember that this group of tourists from Ivory Coast, they made out of the airport a couple of days after I arrived. So I think they were at the airport for less than a day and just waiting. And then those Senegalese kids, they also left as well. But then and then also those two Indian passengers made out because I am still in touch with them. But I remember in the morning we were just about to board our plane, they send more groups of people in, and God knows how long they're going to be waiting, because there are people from Senegal again, there are people from Gambia, and there are people from like so many different countries just here to travel, thinking that they're going to spend two weeks in Tunisia, but then no, they're going to be sent back, and they don't even know when they'll be sent back. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that part of my inspiration for starting this podcast is immigration is a fascinating subject to me, and you know I know like Mali's going through a crisis. They have these countries, especially here in West Africa, that I'm more familiar with now, and I'm kind of listening because you know how it is in Latin America. You're in Colombia, but you hear things about Peru and Venezuela. Near neighboring countries. You hear about neighboring countries here in Senegal and Mauritania, and yeah, Burkina Faso is going through it. Guinea-Bissau is going through it. Mali's going through it. And what going through it means is humanitarian crisis. People with no
Mhm.
jobs and just stricken in poverty, they have to leave. And Tunisia is not equipped to receive immigrants. And I actually did a very, very deep analysis and search of Tunisian immigration while I was there, because as I visit each country, I just start digging deep into, because we always focus on immigration from now or 20 years ago. Well, what about 100 years ago? What was happening then? And let's see how it's changed. In Tunisia, Italians were going to work in Tunisia. Now it's Tunisians going to Italy. But it's like this
Yeah.
this chain effect, this domino effect of
Yeah.
people looking just to work and to have a better life, right? Well, there's other cases. Unfortunately, I did find people in different countries that join mafias and gangs in other countries, but we will leave that example for another day. The regular civilian who just wants to make it through the day is going and leaving their country to find somewhere to go. And yeah, Tunisia, one of the things that I searched and found out was they're just not really in place to make any immigration laws because they've never really had immigration. So when Libya had their war, they were like, what do we do? Like, there's a bunch of Libyans coming into our country now. When Syria had a war, same thing. And it was like they have these new immigration laws. And
Mhm.
I think maybe that is why, I don't think this is why, but maybe like that's the sort of situation you run into. You run into a country where immigration to them is maybe like a newer concept because they're kind of like they're on the they're kind of a stop to Italy, to Europe. And
Mm.
I don't know if you're aware, but I'm sure you are. Like, there's so many immigrants that cross the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, to get to mainland Europe, and they usually do it through Morocco, but Tunisia is
Mm.
not far behind, and so a lot of sub-Saharan African people will get there, except they don't really go there to stay in Tunisia. They really go there to risk their lives and try to cross the ocean.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate to hear what happened to you. And did you ever find out, like, possibly why? I mean, are you ever going to be allowed to visit?
Well, the thing is, I can still go visit if I get a visa, right? Like I can still like here in
Okay.
Egypt get a visa and visit. But the problem is, I think that's exactly like what you said, right? They don't want any more immigrants in their country anymore. So anyone like in sub-Saharan countries, they're considered immigrants in Tunisia. And also I've heard before, like in Libya, Italy had been giving Italian like army or like local army like certain amount of money to keep Libyans inside of Libya so
Yeah.
that they do not cross the Mediterranean Sea to go to Italy. Maybe they have certain deals with Tunisia as well. I haven't done my research, so I'm not very sure. However, I don't understand why China and India are in the list as well, because we're so far away. And again, I don't see any reason for us to go to Tunisia to find a job and stay there to smuggle ourselves in. Like I honestly don't. So and but also like while I was at the airport, I kept calling Chinese embassy and I didn't get to be in touch with them because nobody picked up. And then I came back to Egypt. I sent them an email, and thank God they replied to me yesterday. They said, I actually do need a visa to visit Tunisia.
Mm.
They said that I do. They said because of COVID, they want Chinese tourists to have a visa to go visit Tunisia. However, I Googled again. I did not find that information anywhere
Hmm.
because so far everywhere I've seen in either English, Chinese, Russian, French, Arabic, it all says that I do not need a visa for Tunisia. However, the embassy, they send me a link to a page. And at the end of this page, there's a tiny little line. It says that Chinese citizens need to prepare for a visa before visiting Tunisia during COVID time. And I did not see this. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people who went there did not see this either.
You would think they would just put it as the title. Like, why? I don't know why that sort of information is like hidden from, put in like minuscule letters.
I don't understand. So I mentioned it to the embassy as well. I was like, please make it as a title so that
Yeah.
more Chinese people could see, and also like tell I don't know, maybe make changes to Wikipedia as well, and definitely let Tunisian government know so that they do not put it on their official webpage saying that we don't need a visa anymore, because this is wrong information. And they said, yeah, they will make changes. But I mean, I doubt they will, but that's what they said, right?
Well, you can explain that as being the reason why you weren't let in, but not for the other people. You
Oh,
can't get
of
away
course.
with you can't get away with explaining or finding an excuse for that, because there's you, and then there's the Senegalese kids, the Indian tourists, and I think I called my Tunisian friend the other day when I saw your post, and nobody could believe it. I couldn't believe it as I was reading it, and what I told her during our conversation was, it sucks that you treated that way, because you're there like me, who went and had a good time. I promote Tunisia like it's the best thing since sliced bread. I talk beautiful things about the country, the people. I've promoted them on my social media. I will continue to do so. And that's the best thing that could happen to a country. If you, like, it's happening to Colombia, where we had our dark times in the 80s. We still had a lot of war and drugs. We've always had war, but it just, the tourism industry had not hit in the 90s, and then social media hit, and they started posting pictures of Medellin and Salento and all these beautiful places in Colombia, and everybody starts going. Everyone that I know that has visited my country absolutely loves it. And I feel like the reputation of my country, let alone the tourism, the people who are there and make a living off tourism, which if you look at a lot of countries' GDPs, it's tourism, you know? Tourism's a huge, huge industry to sustain an entire country's economy. And if you can become a go-to nation like Tunisia is not, if you can become that, people will flood and treat your country well and talk about it, and more money will come in. Maybe the immigration guy gets a raise because the country is doing better, the economy is getting higher, and that is what I was talking about to my friend. I was like, that sucks that people might hear this story and like then be like, man, Tunisia, like, I don't know. And they've had a few, terrorist attacks in the past 10 years. But it is a beautiful nation. And it sucks that they can't think of it as like, hey, we could be a big tourism industry here. And things
Yeah.
like this is going to ruin it.
Sure. Well, I doubt that it's going to ruin it, because who's going to listen to our words? I mean, you got
You never
into
know.
Tunisia.
Here's the thing. You
Yeah.
never know. This you've been posting everywhere. I'm gonna post this because this is the exact subject that I like to cover. You never know what the internet is where it's gonna send it out to and who's gonna listen to it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I just really hope that most people can read my story and, listen to our conversation today, because I really want the rest of the world to know, because I feel like, like those African kids that I met at the airport, I
yeah,
don't feel like they're going to be able to actually tell the story, and maybe they might not even tell the story, maybe because they're scared of not being able to go back to Tunisia again, and I feel like I need to do this. I really feel like that I do. And also, like, you got into Tunisia because you're an American citizen, right? And your word matters. They want to hear good things about Tunisia, from an American person, from an European, from a Westerner. Their words matter, but beautiful words from a Malian person, beautiful words from Senegalese person. They don't need that. You know what I mean? They need tourist words to bring more tourists, from Europe, from a country where they can actually afford to stay in five-star hotels. Like, they don't need tourists from developing countries.
but
I mean, at least that's how I feel.
having said that, right, we can focus on the African immigrants, but Chinese people are rich, Indian people are rich. There's people with money from these countries that go and visit, and that's why, as you explained, you found it odd that they thought, hey, an Indian and the Chinese are going to come and take your job. Like, like you said, we're pretty far away, and there's other places I could have immigrated to do
Yeah.
that, do that very thing. So no, but you're absolutely right. When you said I'm an American citizen, and I've never used my Colombian passport anywhere because I haven't needed to. I think the only country that I can use it for that would give me a better chance to get in fact, not a requirement for visa, is Russia. But I haven't really put Russia on my list. And during any of my travels, I have thought about going, but man, with what's going on now, and who knows what's going to unfold later, I'm not going to visit anytime soon. But that would be the only country that my Colombian passport allows me to enter without a visa. While for American citizens, I would need to get a visa like with 3 months in advance. But I
Mhm.
wonder how different my experience in travel would have been if I
Yeah.
depended on my Colombian passport.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, passport privilege is a real thing and it really exists. And it's really unfair, like, I was at the airport with other people and just thinking how this piece of paper can just change people's life like this. It can change people's life drastically like this. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. So you were able to make it out. Like, did they? So they purchased your ticket out of that facility, out of the airport, and back to Egypt.
Yeah, so basically our flight was at 11:50. They told us in advance that we will be the first passengers to board the plane, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting. It was 11:30 and they weren't giving our passport back. We're like, "When can we go? We're going to be late." He was like, "Wait a second, I will go with you." So one of the officials said that. We're like, "Hold on. You're not going to give our passport back to us. You're going to walk with us as if we're criminals." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Exactly. And we were even thinking that we could enter the terminal, have like, breakfast, have a coffee there or something. But no, we're not going to get that. He's going to, escort us all the way onto the plane.
That's
And
crazy. So
yeah,
like people were
yeah,
looking at you guys as if you did something wrong.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we did board the plane as first passengers for sure. But then we
Okay.
got on the plane and they took our bags away and we were like, no, 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 I want to take my bag on the plane because I came here with it. And they were like, no, 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 you can't. We're going to have to take your bag away. Or we're like, no, I've got my stuff in it. They were like, okay, take your stuff out and we're going to take your bag away. So I took my electronic devices out and they took our bags away and then we're sent to the bottom of the plane. So, and then I started talking to people. I was like, okay, what's going on? We still do not have our passport. We don't know no one's here to tell us what's going on, right? We're really worried. And they just ignored us. And people, this was Egypt Air, and the people there were all Egyptians already, and they were like, "Okay, tell us, please tell us what's going on." And nobody was talking. Everybody was like they're speaking Arabic to each other, and I just suddenly lost it because I wasn't eating well, sleeping well, drinking well for like 24 hours, and I just completely lost it. And I started shouting, screaming at them, and
Ooh.
crying. I just completely, I had to break down because I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I was like, and I was
Have
just
you
really like,
have you by the way, have you ever done that in any situation in your life?
never in public like that. This is crazy now that I think about it. Never have I ever in my life, like no, no, no. But I started like screaming at them. I was like, why is no one talking to us? Why are we still treated as animals? We're not criminals. We're not animals. We're human beings. Could anybody please just come and talk to us and tell us what's going on? And where is our passport? And they saw me screaming and crying, and they were all like, oh, no, 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 don't worry, everything is gonna be okay. They said you won't be a problem. They said by the time you land in Cairo, you're gonna have to go to like deportation departments, sign something, but that's about it. Nothing more.
And then you got back into Egypt, and I know that you've been staying in Egypt for a few months. How are you managing to stay there legally?
Oh, because I study Arabic here in the university, so I have a student visa.
Oh, okay. So you're a student visa holder. Okay, I wasn't sure if you
Yeah.
just kept. I think you can stay there as a tourist for up to like 6 months. Is it? I don't know. I know
Yeah.
there's like a 30-day visa, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can apply for residency here for 6 months. So yeah, yeah.
wow. Well, thank you so much for telling us your story. So in its entirety, it was what, 24 to 30 hours from when you left all the way until when you were
It was
safely returned.
actually it was actually 24 hours, like literally exact 24 hours.
And so you couldn't, you had to sleep there, right? Like you just stayed awake. You had to sleep, but you couldn't sleep.
Oh, I slept for a bit, but I slept for like 2, 3 hours. I think that's about it. But yeah, I saw some people who didn't get to sleep at all.
Well, I hope that in the future you're able to get that visa and kind of erase this experience from your memory. But I think it's a very powerful story, especially like you said, when it comes to the other people who don't have a voice. So I think it's great that you're able to put this out there. Um, I don't know who's going to listen to this. Like I said, that's kind of the lottery of the internet, but I do think that like an American telling the story with, a Chinese counterpart and through this media, like we'll get somewhere and it'll stay on the internet as well. And I hope that, it gets to their officials and I mean, look, I think I understand not letting people into a country for no reason, right? I don't condone it. I'm not an official. I don't know how these things work, but I understand. I'm like, okay, to a country, you don't have to give me a reason, but like treat people with like the littlest amount of respect. Give them water, give them food. Honestly, just treat them like you would treat your mom and your brother. I don't know why human beings can't do that. People,
Yeah.
we treat each other as strangers. Oh, but hey, that it's like every time I think about when a man commits a bad act against a woman, I'm like, you realize that's somebody's mom. Like, just think about that right there. That could happen to your mom, and you're doing that to another woman. And it's like people
Yeah.
don't think like that enough. And in your situation, it's like if somebody came to your door like starving or just dying of thirst, is there not something in you? Like, does your job just overtake you and make you become somebody else? Do you? I think these people
Yeah.
take their job so seriously. Like, I'm an immigration official. I must enforce it. Like, you're human, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah. This is insane. Like I was sitting there looking at them and thinking like, like, why are you like this? Why are you behaving like this as well? And oh, there's like a short story. I'll just say it here very quickly. So one of the tourists from Ivory Coast was on the phone talking to his friend very angrily. Well, I mean, of course he was, because he was going to be deported, right? He was like shouting on the phone, and one of the officers saw him being on the phone shouting, and he came to him. He's like, are you making fun of me? Is that what you're doing? Are you talking shit about me? Is that what you're trying to do? You watch. And then he went back to the office, took his passport out and gave it to the police. He's like, yeah, you want to laugh at me? This is something that you have to pay for.
So he's, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think he was doing that to scare him and then to delay his flight.
Yeah, just fear tactics, and literally just because it makes me put into perspective. When I landed in Mauritania, I was like, it's weird. Like, not you. When you think of an airport, you think of this kind of safe place in a way. There's food, somewhere you can sit, you have Wi-Fi. But I've heard horror stories, and some airports don't look like airports. They look like bus stations. Like, you're in
Right.
there, there's an entry, there's an exit, and immigration is in the middle. And when I landed in Mauritania, it was a decent airport, but it was very, very small. It's also super far away from the city. So I realized that as I was leaving the airport, I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like, this is in the middle of nowhere. But the immigration guy treated me with such respect. Like,
Yeah.
guys were like pretty straight faced. Okay, Mauritanian citizen here, all other citizens here. Where are you from? And obviously, in like broken English, broken French, whatever. Oh, I'm American. And like, oh, okay, yeah, you go over there. And then the guy treated me with such respect, like, oh, how are you? Are you welcome to Mauritania? Smiling. I'm like, this guy's smiling. You know how hard it is to get a smile out of
Yeah.
these people? And that's when I
Yeah.
realized American privilege, man. They treat us so damn well. But by the same token, man, how they treat other countries is unbelievable.
Yeah, no, they're racist. Yeah, I'm so sad to say, but like they're racist.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for telling us your story. And like I was saying previously, I hope that you get the opportunity to visit. It is a very, very wonderful country. It's I love the capital city, Tunis. Very clean, big open roads, good weather. There's so many things to do there, and I hope that you have the opportunity to go there one day. And I wish you nothing but success in your student endeavors. And I hope to run into you during one of my travel trips.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me today, Sam. And thank you so much for doing this for me as well, because I really, really need people to hear this story, because I don't want people to make the same mistake again in the future, because nobody deserves to be treated this way and nobody should be tortured by people like that. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.